Hello and welcome to another Cards and Cardboard review. I'm Benjamin Hernandez, and today we're doing a preview video for a Kickstarter going on right now called Secret Directive. Now, full disclosure, this project was given to me overseas from Scotland in a box here, and I was asked to do this video. I only have a preview copy of the game, no money's exchanged hands here. So with that disclosure out of the way, we'll kind of take you right into this box and see what you get. So Secret Directive is a game for 2 to 4 players where it's kind of a deck building, worker placement, spy-ish theme game. It kind of goes in the lieu of the Cold War era where different countries are trying to build up their various goals, basically, their agendas. And the theme of the game is that you are trying to get your little agendas up to 10 before another player does. And the first person to reach 10 on any of the one agenda charts wins. So that's kind of a brief overview. We're going to take you into the box right now and see what you get. Okay, so this is a look inside the box of what you'll actually be getting when you kickstart this game. I've been told that the component quality is pretty much finalized, which is a little unfortunate because the cardboard on the box is a little thin. In fact, when I received mine in shipping, it was actually slightly ripped. Again, it's no big deal. I'm sure that with distributors and stuff like that for shipping, it'll be a little bit better. They were kind of just trying to get the prototype over to me as quick as they could. So inside, you're going to get a rulebook, a number of coins to represent the currency of the game. I mean, as an American, dollar bills would probably be preferred. Even paper money is bad, but you know, coin chips are nice, but not terribly thematic in my book. You'll get 2 decks of cards, one that has all of the Secret Directive cards, which are shown in black on the back, and the other cards, which are things that you will research and build your deck out of during play, which are manila colored or some sort of tan. You'll get a number of cardboard agent chips and cubes to represent where they are on the various tracks of the game, a dice, and a first player marker. Also inside, you will get 5 pieces of cardboard here, 4 player color boards that represents the various countries of the game. Each of them has their own kind of unique artwork and feel to them based on where they're, I guess, supposed to be representing. There's no actual countries associated with these, but it is kind of neat that they all have their own different area here and different art style. So when you have this game, you're going to get a number of agents based on your little track here. That's the military track. You start with 3. When you advance up the track, you can eventually get to 4 and 5 final agents. There are other ways to procure agents, but we'll get into that a little later with the cards. So the goal of the game is to actually get to the end of one of these 4 tracks here. You've got economy, military, science, and culture. Each of them has a unique benefit associated with them. So usually leveling up a little bit in these is actually really beneficial to you. Otherwise, the suggested strategy of the game is you try to build one and just kind of progress as quickly as you can. Now there's little stop marks here that tell you how much they can go up or down in a single turn. Once you reach that point, it's a little harder for people to knock you back down, and it'll be easier for you to progress, but not too quickly. So economy basically starts at 1 coin. Whenever you take the take income action with one of your agents, you will get 1 coin, eventually 2 coins, and then 3 coins. And these are used to play the secret directives, which are kind of a take that element of the game that you will start with 2 of these and be able to gain more by using agents or by using them because you always have to have 2 of these in the game. So for instance, this one says draw 3 directives and choose 1, and it costs 2 coins. So that's kind of an idea of what you're going to get from these. They're kind of secret strategies that you have up your sleeve. And they're very much driven by this economy. Now you also have military, which increases your number of agents, as I said before. This increases the number of actions and workers that you can place out. Once you hit 5, you're pretty much at your limits, so you won't have to do more with those. But agents are used either at home or abroad later on in the game, depending on if you're doing stuff in your own country or in an opponent's country. And having more of them will benefit you as you either lose them and have to rehire them and retrain them, or if you're sending people out to other countries, you'll still be able to work on stuff at home. Science starts at level 1 and progresses up to 2 and 3. There are 3 decks of science cards in the game that you can develop from to improve your own personal deck, which we'll get into later in the game. But just know that there are 3 levels of science, and you'll have to advance up this track to get more technology. Now the culture track is kind of the oddball of these all. It starts at 0 and quickly goes up to 1 and then finally 2 up here. Culture allows you to, at the end of every turn, or round basically, if there are any agents in your country, you will actually be able to roll and see if you catch them or not. So now that this kind of board is explained, you'll basically have your cubes on here to represent how quickly you are advancing on there every round. But we really need to go into this component, which is the player board. So the player board has a number of different regions on it. This kind of blank area where we like to put our money and any unused agents or unusable agents. A secret directive area, which is optional. It could have actually been off the board entirely, in my opinion, but hey, what you gonna do? Alright, so you have your HQ, where you put all your active agents in your country. And you also have a jail for captured spies from other people's country. You also have a rehabilitation, which is where spies that were bought from other people's jails will come back to and have to rest a turn before they go back to your active HQ. And then you also found washed up dead on a beach, basically. Or rather just found washed up on a beach. In which case these are agents who have been assassinated and will have to then go to rehabilitation and then end up in your HQ later on. Now you also have this capture track over here. There's 4 spaces of these progressing from 0 to 5. This is where enemy spies will come into your country and do abroad actions on you. Each time they come into your country, they're going to start on the 0 track, and they will be flipped over for that turn. But next time, they'll be able to do actions on your country, hopefully. And whenever they do actions based on your country, they will move up this track. And at the end of the turn, if you have any culture, after all agents have been used, you actually have to roll that number or below in order to try to see if you capture them or not. So that's kind of a big push your luck element that's involved in this game. You can kind of be in somebody's country and keep doing actions, but eventually you might get caught. So you may want to move back home or at least move out to another person's country. Now up here at top are the different types of tracks that you can advance: the economy, military, science, and culture. This is where you'll actually be playing cards from your deck of cards. Now, here's the weird part about the game that took us a little bit to understand, but really and truly it's not that hard. So, it really doesn't matter how many cards you have on your track here from the various actions. When it comes down to it, you're going to take your highest number and subtract the second highest. And that's how much you're actually going to progress up the tracks for that type of card. So in this case, I'd actually move from 0 science to 1 science. And that's because these 2 are basically only count as 1. Really and truly, I can ignore one of them. And then it's basically a comparison of the difference between 2 versus 1, which is 1. So that's how you kind of dictate how you're going to advance up these tracks. When you play cards and use your agents in your own country, you flip them over to represent that they've been used. You can play one of these intelligence cards down in your country. Now, if they're abroad, you actually get the chance to play them abroad. Now, each card has a little thing on it saying it can be played at home or abroad, which is something to bring up with certain action cards. But things like these intelligence cards can be played anywhere, basically, on your country or someone else's. And they're going to be coming from your hand. And when you play cards on somebody else's thing, they will get them into their deck at the end of the turn, because most of the cards that are all the cards that are played out here will eventually make their way into that player's discard pile, where they will be reshuffled and redistributed. So that kind of gives you a unique way of building your deck, where you can kind of specialize in one different track at a time, or maybe specialize in 2 different tracks. And that really is going to depend on how you build your deck throughout the game. Now, each card has a value in the bottom corner here, such as this economy card here, which represents its science number. That's the number it takes to actually research the card. Now we're going to move aside a few things here to kind of set up a basic store for you. So in this case, we have our level 1 store, which is 3 cards. We have our level 2 store, which is also another 3 cards. And we have a level 3 store, which again is 3 cards. Who would have thought? So these are the different things that your player or your agents can actually go out and research for you. Majority of things in the level 1 are going to be the basic action called admin, as well as the individual +1 cards of all the types, such as culture, science, military, all that. Now the second level ones give you more actions, which can manipulate the cards that are actually being in play. For example, this one allows me to draw 2 cards and then trash up to 3 cards from there, which means to put them back into the decks that they came from, or rather off to their discard piles. This one allows me to draw a card or take 2 coins and then play up to 2 intelligence cards. Now I can do only the classified one here at home, but I can do leak at another person's country as well. So that's a home or abroad. So if I wanted to, I could use this to play 2 cards that are going to hinder my opponent from my hand to their place, or I can use it to play 2 beneficial cards on my own home space, which is kind of one of the strategies of the game. Now, agents pretty much are used for those different actions. You are going to use them for moving to one country to another. You're going to use them for researching, which you take your current tech level, and you can either draw 2 from the top of a deck and choose 1, or you can just outright buy something that's on display. You've got income, in which you take your current income based on the track. You know, it starts with 1, goes up to 2, gets up to 3 eventually if you're lucky. You also have the action to play intelligence cards. Every time you flip an agent over, you get to play one of these cards, whether it's at home or abroad. And finally, you kind of can play a spy in order to draw a secret directive card, which increases the likelihood that you'll have more tricks up your sleeve. So with that said, that's kind of a brief rules overview of what the game is. There's a lot of interesting elements in here. You got some worker placement, you've got some economy balance, you've got a race element, as well as a deck building element. So try to take that all in, and try not to get overwhelmed. Just know that there's a few cards that allow you, specifically from the 2nd and 3rd level decks, to do some special things, and they're mainly action cards. So, for example, here I've got a Thief card, which allows me to play it abroad, and then also take 3 money from a player. I also have a thing called Assassinate, which I think is one of the most powerful cards in the game, because of the fact that you can play it at home or abroad to eliminate one enemy spy and basically put him, washed up face down on the beach. Which that kind of is something that's irked me a little bit about that, but I'll get into that later in the review. Now, in the 3rd level ones, you're going to deal with things that are quite powerful, and I almost think maybe a little too powerful. It really depends on how you feel about Take That card game. But things like Sabotage here, where I can move an enemy track down by 2. That's huge if you can ever play this in someone else's country and not get assassinated, because that's slowing the game down and it's preventing them from achieving victory. Now, on the other hand, if they're already pretty high up on their track and they're past the stop point, it's going to be a little harder to actually make that bomb more useful, especially if you manage somehow to get multiple versions of them. You have also in this deck the 2 cultures, the 2 military. They're basically +2 cards, and they act as 2 cards of this. So you don't have to worry about efficiency in that case, and you are able actually maybe to get rid of some of these other cards in favor of these other ones. They're also fun to play on your opponents because then they are stuck with them. Yes, it helps them out somewhat, but also it is a way to kind of say, I want you to go up on this track instead of another track. Now lastly, the one action card that I think is a little odd here is the Honeypot. classic spy technique where you're going to go in and you can play it broad only, where you go into someone else's country and you convert one of their agents over to one of your agents, so long as you don't already have 5 agents in your pool. Basically, you reduce the number of maximum agents they'll even have, and you gain an agent. So you're really messing them over by doing this. Not only are they down one more worker, which means they're out one worker for the rest of the game and are limited on actions, but now you have one more action. On the other hand, you will also not get your full complement of spies when you advance up that track anymore for military, but you'll have more actions for the rest of the game. So that's kind of the benefits and downsides I'm seeing so far. So we're going to take it right into the final thoughts and kind of wrap up this video. So games like this are kind of suited for people that aren't really into the whole co-op-y mood. It's not quite like a war game or anything heavy like that. It's not quite like a Take That game. This is more of a Lords of Waterdeep feel. You're going to have something where there's a little intrigue going on, there's a little teamwork maybe for ganging up on the leader, but then you're going to go around and stab him in the back. You know, there's a lot of that Take That elements that work out really well that you would see like in a Munchkin style game. And this kind of mixes that with the deck building elements and the worker placement and gives you a lot of different techniques in order to refine your deck and push junk cards onto opponents, as well as try to get them to play cards that you want on yourself and find ways to deal with the agents in your country. At this time, it's really hard for me to kind of put numbers on things, so I'm not really going to put numbers on it like I do with normal reviews, since also this is kind of a preview. Now, I've been told that the components are pretty much of the final quality, and it's really great because it gives that game that really classic look to it. It looks like something right off your bookshelf from the good old days of Avalon Hill and other board games. The problem is that in this day and age, it's got a few modern components in there, rather, I'm saying mechanics in there, and they don't really blend very well at times. It's an interesting thing to note that it's, as a deck builder, there's not a lot of ways to kind of cull cards from your deck unless you're actively pursuing another player. And so if you're going to really kind of get rid of cards from your deck and specialize in one of those various agendas, you're going to want to actively go and try to give those cards to another player. Unfortunately, when that player knows that, so then they're just going to start playing those cards on themselves to get that track going up, so that way they still gain something out of it. It's kind of it's not a very elegant game. I put that in the sincerest terms there, though. There's a lot of things I like about this game. The worker placement's an interesting idea. The theme is, well, it's pretty spot on, but it's not so much feeling like a spy game like I would expect it to be. It's more of a arms race kind of feel, and it's not quite captured very well in this approach, mixing with that artwork and different blends of themes. Now, what I mean with this kind of chicken mechanic, it's kind of the way that you're kind of trying to outplay each other, and what you're going to have happen is you're going to use all your home actions before you use any abroad. And that's really going to kind of change the way, people play in the game, which is, pretty nice for the meta. But unfortunately, with 2 and 3 players, it doesn't work out so well. However, with 4, this does work out a lot better, because then you have limits on how many people can be in each other's countries. People are trying to deliberately catch the leader and make sure they slow down, giving you an opportunity maybe to catch up as well. And it's going to reward kind of some smart plays in there. However, there's a card in there called Honeypot, which kind of slows things down a little bit. It's a level 3 science thing, and once you have it, you can permanently eliminate another person's spy from the game while increasing your own spy pool up by 1 to the limit of 5. Again, that is kind of like a Take That element, which is very fervent in this game. The secret directives themselves are also much like that, where, it's nice to have a good economy and to use your agents for these cards, but the majority of them aren't quite as useful as you would like them to be, but some of them are also very useful depending on the situations. So, again, maybe with a little bit more balance, or maybe with a bit of consideration from the designer during the production of the future release, they'll come through and maybe upgrade that a little bit more, and instead of giving you more actions and then the advanced science in level 3, that they'll kind of intersperse more reasons to do those researches instead of actions. Maybe there's other benefits where Maybe you can go down one on a track and up two on another. More of that interaction would be nice to see. It would be nice to see the culture track maybe improved a little bit more. I mean, right now it's the quickest one to advance up, but it might be a little bit more fun if there was some other thing that culture was related to other than capturing spies in your country. Especially since cards like Assassinate and Parachuting kind of subvert that role, and the push your luck element is kind of lost in there. With these cards, that's one thing that I've been kind of focusing a lot in this review is maybe a little bit more refinement of those cards, and maybe the actions be trashed after use so that way they don't clutter your deck up as much. And you have to keep researching them, which would make the research action even more efficient and also necessary in the game. So at this time, I mean, component quality, it's classic feeling. Unfortunately, the cardboard's a little thin with this, and the box, while mine was damaged in shipping, it's probably gonna not last as long as most people's heavy-duty cardboard these days. So that's something that's a little sad to see. The rest of the components, the coins and the dice and the first player chip, are kind of real optional things that you might be able to upgrade or change out at the very least. And definitely the agents that you have in the game as well, you can maybe replace those with wooden cubes if there's a great component upgrade. Card quality is, I actually have really decent card quality, and I like the artwork on it. Again, it has that very classic feel, which I really love out of this kind of game because it gives me that solid 1970s era, 1980s, 1970s era game. And it really fits that aesthetic for this is a Cold War-like era game where people are just trying to subvert each other and try to raise their country up to the pro status that they want to achieve. So with those thoughts, please consider backing this Kickstarter. We've had fun with it here for the 4-player game, and that's pretty much what we're going to recommend it for. When things get maybe a little tighter and some of the mechanics get maybe reworked, it'll probably be a better 2-player experience than like a 3-player experience. Just that's kind of the nature of it as it becomes a more head-to-head game and will offer a bit more of unique challenges. Whereas with the 3-player game, there's usually that incentive for 2 players to gang up on one, and that's never any fun for anybody. Yeah, we'll just end it there. So down below, we'll have the Kickstarter link, and the description will also have it probably linked up in a little bubble up here. Other than that, you're looking at a pretty decent little game here. Definitely some interesting designs. Again, maybe a little refinement during the Kickstarting process is all that's required. Other than that, I would go ahead and give this a thumbs up, and it's definitely worth your attention, even for a little bit. Have a good day. Thank you so much for coming to Cards and Cardboard Review.